Hello, I'm Francesca Milton, a director at Montresor Legal. I'm joined today by Steve McCann. Steve has been working in the legal sector for nearly 20 years. He has recently started his own consultancy, MCG Consulting, which specialise in mentoring individuals and organisations and also focuses on addiction in the legal sector and beyond. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So Steve and I, well, we've already met and gotten acquainted and got to know each other.
Yes.
But for the benefit of the listeners, can you tell us a bit more about your story, how you've got to this point, and how has addiction affected your life and career?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Fran. It's great
No
to
worries.
see you and great to be on this podcast. I've seen previous episodes you've done and they're fantastic, so I'm really grateful to be here. So, as you said in the introduction, I've created my own consultancy, MCG Consulting, and we do a lot of mentoring work of individuals, organisations and so on. But I think the reason that we're having this conversation is because you've noticed the work that I've been doing in addiction in the legal industry. And my company's only been going for a couple of months, but I'm already having a huge amount of interest from lawyers, law firms, barristers' chambers. I'm meeting a law society next week in Ireland to talk about this issue. So to go to your point about who I am, I've been working in legal industry for a number of years. I can't believe how long sometimes. Whilst I was having my legal career and working in the city, on the side of that, I've also been doing a lot of work in the community. So I do a lot of work with homeless people. I've done a lot of work in the addiction space. I talk at prisons. I really go out and share my experience, and my experience is really my lived experience is really kind of my strength, because I can sit and talk to lawyers and talk about what they're going through and what I've been through in the past. And I've got my own recovery story. I've been sober for 6 years, but prior to that, I spent basically my whole career really struggling with it. And I'm really pleased that in 2024 these conversations are happening. And
Absolutely.
Law Care, I'm featured on Law Care this month for their addiction special. The fact that they're having these discussions is really fantastic, and the fact that I can go to these firms and the law society and talk about addiction and recovery in the workplace, and they're not saying, wow, that's not a problem, or they're too scared to kind of address it, is really encouraging. So I'm really grateful to have this story, because, I got through it, and I'm now trying to do as much as I can to help other people.
Yeah, absolutely. That leads us quite nicely to it being quite a taboo subject in the legal industry, and how that culture can contribute to hiding these struggles.
Yeah, massively. And I think the legal industry particularly, there's so much sensitivity around I think how people are projected, because a client, this is an olden day kind of version, but a client is paying for someone that perhaps acts a certain way and is very, very precise and very measured, and perhaps those things wouldn't be someone typically that suffers from addiction, right? But as I've learned throughout my whole journey and speaking to people, that, an alcoholic or a drug addict isn't someone necessarily that sleeps on a bench. There are high functioning people who do it in the workplace, and I don't need to speak to law firms. I speak to private equity firms. I speak to banks. I've spoken at Visa in the past, things like that. And the high pressure is dangerous when you have addiction and alcoholism and any form of addiction, really, because it can manifest in so many different ways. But the problem in the legal industry is that it's taboo. It's becoming less so, but I think you have to put your hand up and say you've got a problem is a big deal. And a lot of people, even now when I'm doing, and I do talks at law firms, webinars and so on, a lot of them, at the beginning, they say, how are you going to make people feel comfortable? How do you invite people to this? You can't just say, hey, alcoholics, Friday, we're meeting at 3, be there. That doesn't work. And people just would never attend something that was worded like that. I help the clients with all my clients with all of the wording around that and the communications, because it's really sensitive. Yeah. But then equally, I've worked in magic circle firms where the pressure's been such that it can be hidden because you're doing well at work, or and being a workaholic is absolutely another thing that I speak to people about. But again, you're rewarded for that. Yeah, it's not something that no one ever loses their home for being a workaholic, that type of thing. So I think the legal industry is softening. I think there's a long way to go, but I think conversations like this are very helpful. But it can be hidden. I've during COVID. when the world was really crazy and no one quite knew what was going on, I was having people coming to the area of London where I live and meeting me, and we were having discussions, lawyers, about their drinking issues, because it spiked during COVID. People were drinking at home. I met a partner at a city law firm that was drinking vodka in the morning, then going to work all day, full of fear, and then he'd drink more. And no one knew, he told me no one knew, but it was becoming apparent that you can only live like that for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And that chap there is still sober now, and we're very good friends. And I'm delighted that he's pursued that, because it's not easy. It's a simple process in terms of what one has to do, but it's hard to stay sober. It's hard to, and especially, I mean, when you and I first spoke, you talked about the business development side of a lawyer, right, and how big that is.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing. I've gone out with lawyers and been the only person who's not drunk, and it's after a while it becomes a talking point.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that, but initially it was tough to, how does one bat that away? I told people I was running a marathon for about a year, and there was no marathon, but a half marathon. But it's all about shame, and it's all about But
what do you do now when you go out for drinks?
Yeah.
What do you just say?
A number of things, really. Well, thankfully, I don't really love non-alcoholic lager. I just find it a bit too close to home, and it's not great.
Oh yeah, fair
Occasionally I will, but everyone who knows me really knows that I'm very sober. But I mean, now I don't. Before I kind of thought that. I mean, I handled it probably badly. If someone would ask me, I might give them this whole half an hour lecture about why I stopped and what I'm doing now. And now it's no one's business. And I mean that in the nicest possible way. And frankly, they don't want to know. I will just make it, I don't drink, or I'm not drinking tonight, or that's it really. It's not, I've been at places where people have interrogated me. Yeah. It's become uncomfortable. But people now seem to have a great awareness of, a lime and soda doesn't mean let's interrogate them about their drinking habits. It used to be.
Yeah.
And I'm of the age where I absolutely was interrogated, and it's not pleasant.
No. Yeah.
But now I don't really care. I've got more important things to worry about.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we talk a bit about your corporate mutual aid recovery program? You've had an amazing response to it.
Yes.
Where do you see it going?
Well, I was talking to a firm yesterday, and I was telling them, Pinsent Masons, and I was telling them that Brilliant. My dream is to have, so we call it CMAR, because I don't want to keep having to say Corporate Mutual Aid Recovery, because I always go Corporate Mutual Aid Recovery. So CMAR is our programme. And it's my goal and my dream and my company's dream to have it in place in some way at every law firm in the country, if we can, and it would be amazing. So how it works, and I'm talking to, as I say, the Law Society about this. I'm talking to all manner of firms, and we'll get to it, I'm sure, but my Law Care article highlighted it, and people were really curious about it. So I'm working with Ray Jenkins, who is a really well-known name in the recovery space, and he's someone I've admired for years. I had a conversation with him, and I was really happy to have just a chat with this chap, because he started up Emerging Futures. He advised the government on a number of initiatives that have become the kind of national policy. Wow. Really, really inspirational person. He's a dear friend, and I really appreciate just having him in my life. Really, he's been sober for 32 years, and he's a real.
Wow. His
story is amazing. It goes from homelessness in Elephant and Castle to being a CEO of a company with hundreds of people.
Yeah,
incredible. So CMAR is it's a program whereby so the issues that I kind of get sometimes are people book myself, or typically me, to go into a law firm. So say I go into Linklaters. I go in there, I do a talk. It's great, if I don't say so myself. But, I do my talk. It's impactful. I kind of know what to say. I do a Q&A at the end. And then what can happen is, and this hasn't happened at Links, I'm just using them because they're someone I'm talking to. But what can happen is that you have your big talk in September, October, whenever, and then it's great, and everyone's excited about it, and the people that are suffering are clearly feel that I'm being spoken to here, this is wonderful. But then, rather than me saying, okay, see you next September, good luck.
Yeah.
But what some firms are doing to kind of counterbalance that is getting me to come in again in May. And we're talking about, okay, maybe if you do two, it'll be less. But when I started MCG, I had time to think, what do I wish existed when I was really struggling? Because I was really, really struggling. And what I would have loved was not I wouldn't say it tokenistic, but there are so many initiatives where it's this day, then that day, then this month, and that's week, and all of them deserve the time and the exposure. But I can only speak to the one that I'm an expert about. So rather than just having like a little phase of this awareness and then going, I wanted something all year round that would support lawyers. So CMAR is a program where we go into law firms, we create internal networks where typically I would do my talk about, okay, this is my story. I've sat where you sat, and that's really compelling for a lot of lawyers, because rather than me coming in as someone that's qualified but say like, quite clinical, coming in with like, here's a deck, this is what money costs legal industry, stop drinking, goodbye. I don't do that. I do a very a very compassionate, it's a very vulnerable share that I do. I talk about my story, but then everyone has my email address or my associate's email address. They can contact us at any point, the lawyers, I mean, or non-law. And this is the thing, it's not just lawyers, non-lawyers within law firms, anyone really, because it's not just the lawyers within law firms that feel the pressure.
Absolutely.
It's not the ones who, there's so much pressure everywhere. So we have this structure where we meet internally, we share our stories, if you like, we talk, but really it's about the connection. And we say in recovery that connection is the opposite of addiction, not recovery, connection, and it really is. So people can meet, they can see who, it's not about seeing, oh wow, that's the head of that group and that's a really senior person. It's not about that. We have a really flat structure where we come in, we share our stories, it's me kind of facilitating it, and then we, throughout the year, we build on that, we keep meeting, but it's all about stigma busting, and it's not about like, okay everyone, last Friday of the month, we'll meet in secret and I'll black out all the names so no one knows who's in the meetings, because we don't want anyone to know what you're doing. It's not that. It's very visible recovery. And then my dream is that in time, we will then have our own kind of, track record and case studies. And this is Emily who, obviously it's all about them being free to share, but many people want to talk about their sobriety because they're proud of it.
Yeah.
It's like Emily came to CMAR in January. It's now December. Let's talk about your journey. And I want it to be, and I want to facilitate talks at law firms and have panels, and I really want it to have meaning and become something that is in every law firm and banks and tech and wherever they're human beings. I want it to be, because for me, I know it's the new intake for trainees now, isn't it? So if a new trainee has gone through university and worked super hard and all of that and got a job at a law firm, how powerful would it be in their first week or two of orienteering to see this and be like, wow, that's so proactive. I don't suffer from that, or they may, but to say they didn't. But wow, that's so innovative. It's so forward thinking. And also, as well, Fran, is that person might in 4 years pick up a problem.
Yeah.
And then remember, like, oh, hang on, they've got this thing at my firm where I can come to. Or I remember that time that Steve turned up. Where's his email address? I'll speak to however they might get me. And they can, because it'll be signposted. But I want to create, like, I want it to be very
safe place.
Very safe, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we've had wonderful conversations, and it's at the early stages, but the early adopters, I think, are going to be able to say they're at the start of something wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Can we talk about your article in Law Care?
Yes.
So how did that come about, and what was the reaction been to it?
Yeah, great. Thank you for asking. So Law Care did an article on me, which is being reshared on social media tomorrow. I work with someone called Sarah there, who was just wonderful, and Elizabeth is the CEO there. How it came about was I've been an admirer of Law Care for years, and when MCG started, I did have time to sit and think, and I just thought, who will be interested in this, rather than just me saying, hi, law firms. There's this thing called, like, it's just not appropriate. So, yeah, I got in contact and said, look, I'm doing this. Would you like a conversation? Like all kind of great chats, like when you and I first spoke, and you kindly reached out to me and said, wow, I see you starting a company. Let's talk. And here we are. Like, every wonderful kind of journey, interaction starts with the first thing.
Yeah.
So I pinged them to Elizabeth. Sarah picked it up. Fitzel, who's just fantastic. And she was like, hey, let's jump on a call and talk about it. And I spoke, and I'm very passionate when I talk about this topic. I'm really passionate about it because it's meaningful, and people are suffering. And anyway, Sarah just said, God, this is, I love this. I love it. So she gave me 4 weeks to create an article, send it to her. She didn't have too many changes to make. And then we published it. But the writing of it took time. Like you know, I whenever I write anything, and I've been writing for years, not just this stuff, but I've been writing for years. I've tried to be quite creative and stuff like that. I always revisit drafts, and some days I'm in different moods, so I'd always read it on a certain day. I don't know if that's too much or if that's, but and I said this yesterday to the people from Pinson's, that article, I want it to be hope. I want hope to be the word that comes out of it. I don't want it to be like a trauma dump when someone reads it and they're like, oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah.
I really don't want to get help now because it's too much. Like, I don't want anything like that.
Yeah.
And it's not, and it is a story of hope. And it's also action, you know, and CMAR, my CMAR program is in that article outlining, because I wanted to give tips that allude to like my program, but it's all about hope. And it's been wonderful. And what's great is that if I'd have done this in the first year of being in my recovery journey, I'd have been really nervous and like, what if someone reads this and what are they going to say, and what about future opportunity, all that stuff. But I don't have any of that. I have a lot of like, I feel very strong in the fact that I'm doing it, and I know that it's something that people find a lot of hope in stories like that. And yeah, it's kind of warts and all. I talk about my story and my, you know, it was rough. The certainly the early period of my career, well, all of it really, until I got sober, was really rough. Okay. And to go to your point about the reaction's been amazing, because Law Care were kind enough to include my email address at the end and my company details and stuff, which I was really grateful for. I didn't want it to be like an advert for my company, but I said if I can have contact details at the bottom, it'd be great. Since then, I've had barristers reaching out, say, hi, I've read your story, can we chat? Simple as that. And that's very typical of an early, like, I don't think I've got a problem, but I think I might, you know, which means I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I've had that. I've had all manner of people reach out to me, really. I've had lawyers, non-lawyers. I've had someone who worked in an art gallery who came across my my story and just wanted to talk to me about it. I've had other people in recovery. I've had lawyers that are sober. I've had all manner of people sharing it and talking about it. And it's been really wonderful, actually. I'm really proud of it. And it's also, for me, it's a nice introduction to who I am as well. Like, I've had a lot of people saying, okay, so, you know, send me an email, and it's a perfect thing to say, because I can say, this is my story, if you want to talk more, let's talk. And that's kind of been a great hook, rather than like a War and Peace 9-page email about like, well, it all started in 1981. And, you know, I don't do any of that. It's just, this is what I did, this was the problem, this is what I did to fix it, and this is the hope moving forward and how you can do it yourself. That's it.
Do you want to talk a bit more about your personal story? Just a bit more information on exactly what happened and when it got to the point where you thought, I probably need to...
Yeah, of course. No problem. So...
I know we spoke a bit about when you went to the doctor and they said, you've got X amount a month. Sort of...
Well, yeah, it got really, really serious, and it just got out of control, and people can... It's hard to explain unless you've kind of had it, really. But by the end, I was drinking daily and in inappropriate places and times. And I just felt I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I was always really erratic, and I was always late for stuff. But not just that, I was drinking in the mornings. And it was horrendous. And it's like, when I was very young, you can kind of hide in plain sight, and I would go and watch football and everyone was doing it and it was all right. And I kind of knew early that I seem to I don't really react like this to normal people, because I couldn't stop. But again, when you're in the environment of other young people, it's kind of okay. University was like cranking it right up, because you just don't know what you're doing. Like, you know, you're so young, and everyone's going a bit crazy at uni, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Then I just had a series of kind of quite disastrous moments throughout the city, and the thing is with the cities, and you'll know, like, my heroes were like 30-year-old men at my firm that were more senior to me, and I'm really young. And I'm looking at them thinking, this is how one acts, and this is how I'm, you know. I remember between law school and uni, I went to work for a national newspaper, and as a year between university and starting my law school at the College of Law. And everyone was, you know, late 20s. And I remember a guy took me to one side and said, your only goal here is to, like, basically drink as much as you can, go out with clients all the time. Here's a card, go for it. Blimey. And it was blimey indeed. I was like, wow, that's amazing. And for a while it was fun.
Yeah.
But then, you know, and I'm sure they've got their own kind of issues, and it's not for me to judge them, but it was so extreme, and the drinks trolleys and all of that, and like the booze, and we used to have this game where we would go to lunch and see who could drink as much in 1 hour, and my friend had 4 bottles of red wine once, anyway, and that was the least of it. But that type of environment, and then the legal world, and yeah, I'd attracted other issues as well. I was incredibly anxious, and I needed to drink to kind of be a bit calmer, and then my work suffered, and I would always kind of be quite good at jobs initially, and, you know, that's all fine, but over time I'd either, you know, I'd have to miss work, and it wasn't because I wanted to, it's because I just found it quite an unbearable amount of, it becomes unmanageable.
Yeah.
And it really became unmanageable for me, and people react to stress in different ways, and when you are very busy and out all the time and drinking late in a city and, you know, getting the last train home from Moorgate, you can feel that you're just in a busy career, you know what I mean? I can be like, well, I'm in the city and everyone's out till 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, and after a while it's like, well, this has been going on for decades.
Yeah.
And then how it kind of came to a head was it just became absolutely unbearable, and I really, my relationships with people around me were suffering. I wasn't being present for friends and family, and I wasn't doing the things that I thought, I don't know, I just wasn't doing I just wasn't really showing up for myself, is what my wife says to me. I'm very grateful to have, and very fortunate to have, an amazing partner called Elle, who is just amazing. She's a yoga practitioner, but she's also she's very in tune with, you know, spirituality and acting, you know, just things that help you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when I first met her, which was 6 years ago, so I was 6 months, I was still not sober, and then I got sober 6 months into our relationship. But at the beginning, she was like, I think you should meditate, I think you should do yoga, and I was like, I'm not doing any of that. That is ridiculous. Like, that's not for me. Good luck. She's like, well, how are you doing? You know, and I wasn't doing great. And then over time, you know, I sadly almost lost my relationship with her. Really was on the rocks. It was, and Elle very kindly gave me the opportunity to get help. And for the first time in my life, Fran, I took it. I took it. For the first time in my life, I was like, enough is enough. I need to help myself. Because I thought I was dying.
Yeah.
Like, at one point, I thought I was dying. And I was really underweight. I used to wear, like, jumpers under my suits and T-shirts. I mean, I didn't eat, ever. Rarely ate. And I looked unwell, and I felt unwell, and my mind was bad, really bad. And I had what can only be described as, like, I don't know, like, I started accepting help. I went to Hackney Recovery Services, and I turned up in my suit, my briefcase, and I was like, I don't even belong here, but I might as well, you know. And I was so kind of arrogant, because underneath all of it, I was so I had so much fear, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I was really worried, and I was like, oh, I can't believe it's got to this, but it had, and that's where I'd got to. But I'm grateful that I found that. A lot of people don't find it. Yeah. And it destroys them when they die very young, or they lose everything in their lives, and thankfully that didn't happen to me. I lost quite a lot, but I didn't go there. But I didn't get there yet. Believe me, that would absolutely have come if I'd have continued. Yeah. And then Hackney Recovery Services, I went to my doctor, which you kind of alluded to at the beginning of this conversation. I was honest with him for the first time ever with a doctor, and he was like, okay, well, you know, if you don't change what you're doing now, your health is going to be deteriorating within years. And he was really, really serious. And he fast-tracked me, and I'm so grateful to him. He fast-tracked me to get certain services more quickly than someone else. Like, he knew I was in real trouble. Yeah. And then I entered the rooms of recovery, and followed the steps. I know this isn't about kind of like AA and whatnot, but I followed all the guidance, not all of it, because it's hard at the beginning, because I hated it. At the beginning, I just thought, I can't believe I have to spend my time doing this. But I wasn't going to pubs anymore, so I had time. Yeah. Suddenly I'm like, oh, Monday at 6 o'clock. I've got 4 hours to bed, or whatever. Because I used to go to bed at like 3, 4, 5 a.m. in the week, then get up at 8 and go to work every day. Jeez. Whereas now, you know, 10:30, lovely, like, I'm in bed. And there's been sorry if I'm going on about this point, but no. And then over time, when I started getting more comfortable, I started thinking, right, rather than looking inwards and constantly obsessing about fixing myself and this and that and getting recovery, what can I do to be of service to the people generally? And that's really when I call it like the second phase of my life. Like when my friends talk to me, you know, some of them, I've had friends have tears in their eyes talking about like the difference in me. At my wedding, a mate turned up who'd not seen me since uni, and he had tears in his eyes when he saw me. He didn't recognise me.
Wow.
Didn't recognise me. And yeah, that was a nice moment. But so I started working with homeless people at the weekends down at Charing Cross. Because I wanted to, and do you know what? Back in the day, I would have gone there once and then put it on Facebook and be like, everyone, I've just worked at shelter at Christmas. I'm basically a saint. See you later. See you next year. But here, I made it a rule that I would just kind of do it for myself. I mean, in terms of like, I wouldn't
publicise it. Yeah.
So I did a lot of that, which I loved. And I would go there freezing on a Charing Cross, like talking to homeless people and trying to engage with them. And you know, and I tell you, I would leave that after 3 hours just loving it. And I had a feeling of like, I've never felt a feeling of like pure connection with someone where I'm not getting anything from it. And I mean that in a material sense. I actually am getting something from it because the connection side of it is mind-blowing. Then over years, I did my food bank and my little typewriter that I send little letters to and all that which you've seen. Yeah, it's a classic. And then I joined a mentoring charity for young people, which I'm now the deputy chair of the board of trustees for, and I'm also the chair of another internal group they have for network development. I love mentoring young people. I run the Arsenal Food Bank. I do a lot of work in the community, and it's saved my life, and it's given me a life, and it's just like. So if you're really struggling, that's the big struggle is hard. Then it's getting sober, and that's the thing. And then it's staying sober, which is a whole other thing, because then you've got to live sober in it. But then after that, for me, it's like it kind of flowered into who I am now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm so grateful, and I love it. And I'm always trying to be helpful. I get addicted to like, I'll help there, I can do that, I'll join this board. And for a while, I was on about 6 different committees, and it was all a bit mad.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to do so much. But now I'm in the kind of the middle of the bed, I guess, for like what I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah. What challenges do you think that lawyers face when they're reaching out, seeking help for addiction?
Yeah, that's a great question. I suppose it is the question that I get asked. One of the most common questions. What challenges do they face? Yeah, I think they face the fact that they don't know who to go to.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, if they went internally to HR, you know, not that HR people would do this, I'm sure, but people are scared of like who will tell what.
Yeah.
Will it become apparent? People are so fearful of their position, their work, etc., that they would rather destroy their lives than put their hand out for help.
Yeah.
That's just human nature.
Yeah.
Like so many people, like, you know, I've got there's someone I know that is really struggling with an issue, but he keeps saying, it's not that bad yet, I haven't lost everything yet. And I'm like, you don't have to wait to the yet though. Let's stop now. And that's a hard thing to hear, because I've been, and I can talk of personal experience, I've said to someone, no, I'm not ready yet. If it gets worse, I'll come to you. It's like, well, why don't I just stop now?
Yeah.
But that's a conversation. So what changes do they have? Knowing where to go, knowing what to say, how honest to be. And really, that's where I come in. I want to be the visible, like, hey, you know, I'm non-judgmental because I've seen it all, and I've done, you know, I've been in positions where I've seen a lot of behaviour where I understand what's addiction and what comes from, you know, I mean, it's so complex, like it's so complex. Absolutely. And I learned from it from years, and I don't pretend to be anyone that's like, well, let's dig through your childhood trauma and work this out. Let's work that out. I don't do that. I give them the tools to help themselves. I then signpost referral pathways of like, I would suggest you go here. I would read this if I were you. I don't ever try and give them any kind of like clinical help, because I'm not qualified to do that. However, I am qualified to talk about what I've done.
Yeah.
And, you know, believe me, like, if you would have met me before, you'd be stunned, because I could not go more than a few days without drinking alcohol. Or, you know, it was very dangerous for me. Whereas now, I've been 6 years in July. I'm talking like hundreds of thousands of like recovery meetings I've been to. I've gone all around the world and gone to meetings. I've taken people into recovery myself. I've helped so many people, you know, and they've helped me, and I've had help from other people. So I can talk about that. Plus, I can sit there and talk the language of a lawyer, and
Yeah.
legalese. I get it. I've written all the emails. And I know all about that, and let's drill into that later. And I know all of that jazz that we all talk like, and that's something that I can really connect with them on.
Yeah.
And people have often said that. When I did it at Visa, people were like, "Wow, gosh, I've never seen anyone in a corporate world be vulnerable like this." I said, "Yeah, I know, because it's needed, and I'm really grateful to be at a time where." It's, if I did this in 1994, people would be like, it'd be completely unusual. But
Absolutely.
over time, it's become more appropriate.
Yeah, law firms have. We spoke about this, didn't we? 15 years ago, what was it like to now? And it's just so different. In the time I've worked in recruitment, which is around that amount of years, it's the change has been just huge.
It's been amazing, and I think my Law Care article speaks to that change, and I mentioned that change in that article. And the old thing in the city about bankers take this and do this, and lawyers take this and do that, and doctors drink out. There was all these kind of, and I'm only speaking to our profession, like what we know, but I'm sure other professions absolutely have other issues as well. I'm sure that's a case, and I know that for a fact. Look at the fashion industry, look at actors, look at people who work on building sites. There are all these different people that all have all these things, and addiction as well isn't. It's not just specific about sectors. Obviously, it's whoever is in it at the time. And I've spoke to everyone, every single type of profession. Roughly, I've had conversations with. Years ago, when I was in law school, it was. When I came out and, got the first job at a Magic Circle law firm, it was all about work as long as you can, stay as long as you can, do not be seen leaving, and then we all drink at the end of it.
Yeah.
That was it. I've slept in one of those pods at work when I'm like, and I first got there and I remember saying to my parents, wow, I'm at this firm and they've got this amazing canteen and you can sleep here if you want and there's a dry cleaners. And I think my mum was like, yes, that means that you'll stay there forever. And I'm like, oh, but it's also really great. And then, and then you spill out onto the city and there's a pub on every corner and you get to know the Jam Pot, the Jamaica Inn, the Counting House, the Folly, the Net, and they all come and you're like... And all I wanted when I was a kid, when it transpired I wasn't going to be a professional footballer, which was very early in my life, I worked that out, probably the first time I ever kicked a football. And Championship manager wasn't a route to being a real football manager. Anyway, all I wanted to do was work in the Square Mile. That's all I wanted. All I wanted to do was put on a suit, tie, and walk around Moorgate and that Square Mile. So all I cared about was I just want to be in the city. I just want to be in the city.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah. I mean, God, when I was young, wow, walking around and, it's exciting. It's feeling very powerful. Exciting. Feeling powerful and all that nonsense with my little red tie on, looking like about 10 years old. But we all did it. But it was... But again, it's all about an evolution, and I want those young people to see, this isn't just for young people, it's for everyone, but I want young people to see that, you know what, you don't have to, I've been to so many Christmas parties where it was like, all right, everyone, we've worked so hard this year, let's get as destroyed as we can. People lose careers over that.
Yeah. And,
the shame of losing a career at an event like that can haunt you for years, and it's sad.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I know we spoke a bit about what can others like myself, legal recruiters, what part can we play in supporting law firms to create healthier work environments? Yeah. And I obviously said I've done a couple of these sort of podcasts and things like that, but have you any other ideas? I know we've spoken a bit about what we could do.
Yes, what you and I spoke about, and it was a nice question because, there are so many parts of being in the legal industry. It's recruiters, it's lawyers, it's PAs, it's everyone. There's so much to it, paralegals, and everyone is in a highly pressured environment because everyone is on deadline. Everyone works with people that are time poor. Yeah. You'll know that more than anyone. It's so hard to get hold of people and that. And I think we're all in this together. And I can only speak to the legal sector. Certainly, finance I've done a bit of, but for the awareness, doing this is great, I think. Yeah. Yeah. We've talked about before MCG partnering with your firm and going in and maybe doing an introduction to addiction in the law the workplace, the legal sector. I was going to say the law place, but that's not a word. The law place. I've had other recruiters reach out to me and say, "Hey, would you be interested in meeting people that And I always welcome those conversations. Partnering up would be nice because the recruitment world also has. Like legal same issues. Yeah. People suffer from the same stuff. Absolutely. You know,
Yeah.
who's to say that me doing a talk in collaboration with your law firm means that some of your staff will watch this?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I think awareness is the best thing you can do. Just keep having these conversations is great. And if you wanted to work with me, that'd be lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm enjoying it. Looking back on your journey and your time in the legal industry, is there anything you wish you had known earlier about dealing with mental health and addiction?
Everything. Absolutely everything. Yeah. I mean, I don't say it anymore because I understand it's all about, like, I've been through what I've been through and that's why I'm sitting here. But when I was first getting sober, I thought, why didn't I stop at 21 or 22? Why didn't I stop? Because I wasn't ready to stop.
Yeah.
And I've met people that got sober at 61, 65, 70. And they've been grateful that they've got sober at that time, because some people never get it.
Yeah.
And then other people I've met, they've got sober. I remember I met someone that was at 18, they worked out they couldn't drink properly. So, okay, I'm going to be sober the rest of my life. And I was like, why? Like, you've got so much. And they were like, well, why would I want to destroy myself for the next decade? And I thought, wow, that's really, that is so insightful for someone that young.
Massively.
What do I wish? Well, I'm happy that I'm sitting here today and I've been through what I've been through, and I wouldn't change it, because it's given me this, I think, a profound gratitude for where I am. I think it's hard because there's so much pressure in law firms, and we can sit here all day and be like, well, it's a lot more of a it's pressurised, and when it's cranked up, a lot of things are forgotten, and we have to, I've worked for firms that were so obsessed with profit, nothing else, and that's sad. But that is the reality for these firms. Some of their revenues are over billions of pounds. Billions.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. What do I wish I'd have known earlier? That it's okay to ask for help is the obvious thing. Yeah. Because it is. But when I was young, when I'm trying to make my mark at a firm, or I'm trying to be a bit of a Jack the Lad and being on all the business development things, I wouldn't have known where to turn. Whereas now, the advice I would give is, I wish I would have known. And also, and some firms might not love me for saying this, but it's only work as well. Like, yes, it's important. Yeah. It's really important, and I'm not saying it's not, and we all want to do well, I'm sure. But family, family life, young children, whatever, even if you don't have children, family life is so important. Friends outside of work, the old, like, yeah, he or she earns a lot of money, but they have a great flat, but they're never there. Like, then it gets really sad. I've worked in various firms, and some are great at work-life balance, and others it doesn't exist. And God, it's such an environment of just exhaustion and stress, and no one wants to say anything. And thankfully, those firms, I hope, are changing their ways. I'm sure some won't for a long time yet, but I'm really trying to soften that, because if you have a happier workforce who are engaged, who feel supported, who have our mentoring program, who have any kind of support, they will perform better.
Absolutely.
When I feel happy about stuff, and I'm better at my job. Yeah. But when you're racked with stress, be it micromanagement, toxic environment, feeling that there's no psychological safety net at work, all of these things contribute to you not being the skilled person you are, and why you got that job, to just someone that's constantly worried. Yeah. And that then breeds the secret drinking, the secret drug taking. And then after a while, it becomes not secret drinking and obvious drinking and drug taking. You know what I mean? Yeah. So they're all things that I think people in senior roles, or anyone that can affect groups of people, being in like the wellbeing teams and all these wonderful new teams that I see pop up, which are just fantastic. If you can influence people's lives and the culture at your firm, you have a real responsibility. It is your responsibility to make sure everyone's okay. Yeah. There is the old school managers who just think, but I've worked really hard and everyone else should work hard and you should be sleeping in the office just like me. It's like, well, hang on, you earn loads more money than us and you probably have interest in this company. You know what I mean? You might be a shareholder, you have different interests than us. Everyone also cares, but we need to have our lives. Yeah. And because, I've had people saying like, I work 20 hours a week and I'm always on call and I'm the biggest workaholic ever. And I'm like, yeah, you really shouldn't be saying that to your team because it looks like you can't manage your time. I love the people that are saying, yeah, we're going to, work on this and everyone needs me. I'm really available. Like having an available person at work you can tap into is so powerful, because then there was like, oh, I've got time for you. Yeah. I said, my email that I had on the Law Care article, people would say, "Oh, wow, they could have a lot of people emailing you." I said, "Yeah, but I'm always going to have time to at least check in and say, hey, I'll come to you next Monday. What are you doing this afternoon?"
Exactly. Yeah.
Just creating time for other people. But yeah, it's a stressful place, the city, but also the country, the world right now is a stressful place.
Yes.
And I really do hope that the stuff that I'm talking about is going to become the norm. And,
Yeah.
It's only going one way, I hope.
It definitely is, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's next in your advocacy work and your consultancy business?
Yeah.
What's the plan
Thanks
now?
for asking. What is the plan?
What is the
What
plan?
is the plan, Fran? Sorry, you can probably cut that bit out. But no. So immediately I'm going to Ireland next week, which is really exciting. I'm going to meet the Law Society in Northern Ireland. I'm going to firms around Belfast. I'm meeting all manner of firms, from Pinson's to A&L Goodbody to DWF. Lots of firms. I'm then going to Thursday morning. I'm going to Dublin, where I'm meeting the other office of Pinson's and other law firms as well. And I'm also meeting the Law Society of Ireland in Dublin, where I'm staying for the rest of my time. So that for me is an exciting moment, because my plan is to then knit a relationship between all the law firms of Scotland, in the north of England, London, etc. I want to take my little tour, if you like, to Glasgow and Edinburgh next. Maybe Wales, and it just came to me, and I was thinking, do you know what? It shouldn't be London centric.
Yeah,
and it's so simple to be like London, 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 because I'm born in London, I've worked in London. But I don't think that's, there are so many great firms now that have gone to Belfast,
Yeah, absolutely.
that have gone to Bristol, Cardiff, all these other, Manchester, I'm not going to name everywhere,
hubs, yeah.
but all of them, right? Birmingham, I'm literally naming places. But they all are exactly the same as just London centric. And that's the problem with London sometimes is, look at politics, right? Whenever there's a general election, you get the politicians being like, I'm going to Scarborough for a few days, bye. And it's like, really? I don't remember you ever going there or mentioning it ever again. But they'll go around the country to get this support, and I understand why they do it, but it's all about London.
Yeah.
I mean, the stats of London getting what others don't is not right, and the disparity is pretty shocking. So I'm trying to, as I say, spread it around the country, do that. Long term is, I'm already bringing on associates. I have my fabulous mentoring program. I'm working with a company called Progress Together. They are a membership company in the city. I partnered with the Lord Mayor's Appeal. And I'm doing the This Is Me, which is a wonderful, I recommend you have a look at it. The Lord Mayor's Appeal. It's about stories of people like myself in the city and what we're doing to kind of affect change and what we've been through. I'm on a panel next Tuesday for the Lord Mayor's Appeal, which is going to be really exciting. It's about loneliness in the workplace, and that might sound like an odd topic, but it's all about how you can feel isolated at work, and when everyone's working remotely, how it feels. So it's a real privilege to talk at places like that. And in my mentoring, as I said, I'm working with Progress Together. I'm mentoring financial institutions about inclusivity and D&I stuff, and all of that we're doing. That's growing. And yeah, I'm talking to as many firms as I can. I want to have, in a few years, I want to have lots of staff and people that join my company because they believe in the mission, and I want to treat them in a way that I haven't been treated in the past by many firms I've been at. But I want it to be a place that is just purpose driven and very understanding of people's circumstances, including my own staff. I just want to be able to look in the mirror and think that I'm doing something for the right reasons. I'm sure there will be financial obligations where I've got to do some, there's the nature of business. I'm going to have to earn money and pay people and all that stuff, and that will come. But it's all about establishing who I am and what we're doing, and that's going really well. I couldn't have, this first few months, I only incorporated in July, but my first few months have been amazing, and I'm really excited about that. And yeah, long may it continue, really. I'm looking to, as I say, meet as many people as I can, have these conversations, and see where it takes me. But yeah, we've had a really good start. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be amazing.
Thank you.
I'm excited to watch the journey.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
that. Finally, what advice would you give to anyone listening who might be struggling or knows someone who is struggling? I know we've talked a lot about this, but just as
Yeah, of course. Yeah, well, that's always the thing. Like, what would someone like to hear who needs to hear the message? You know.
Yeah.
I think number one is to know that you're not alone, and I think that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Like, it's so powerful to see other people, and again, that's why I hope and I think that I have quite a singular. It's quite a singular experience me going into law firms, because I can say I've sat in your seat, I've sat there myself.
Yeah.
Seeing other people stick their hand up, but again, if you think you have an issue, reach out for help, because it isn't going to get better. It will get worse.
Yeah.
It's progressive. It will get worse, and you'll end up hiding it from your family, or you end up hiding it at work, and then it gets even worse. Reach out, take the first step. My information is easy to find.
Yeah.
Please do reach out to me. I'll be happy to talk to anyone at any point and point you in the right direction. And I would just say, be kind to yourself, because you're not a bad person trying to turn good. You're a sick person trying to get well, and there is a difference. And it's all about having that compassion for yourself, to be kind to yourself, because self-talk is the most important thing. That it's the most powerful thing. You talk to yourself all the time.
Yeah.
If I was my own health coach, or like if I was my own life coach, some of the advice I'd give me, I'd fire myself. Because if you came to me with an issue, I'd give you really compassionate advice. I'd say, well, do this and do that. What advice I give to my friend and all of that stuff. But with myself, I'm not that compassionate. I'm like, well, no, you're too busy to talk to someone, actually. And you're really complex, so that chat won't be helpful for you. I'm telling you, that's all just your mind. It's just nonsense. It's all about connecting, reaching out. You have to be a bit vulnerable in order to get help, because that is the nature of getting help,
Yeah.
But once you've made that first step, that'll be a distant memory. The best thing I've ever done in my whole life, ever, is this, because my life is now built on it. I have a baby daughter, my wife, my home, my family, relationships, my nieces, my parents, all of this, my friends, all of this great stuff I have in my life, my business. It's all built on that, and that is my rock of sobriety. It's my rock. And even, I still take care of myself, even though I'm going out and doing all this talking, and I might look like, wow, he must be sometimes I struggle. And sometimes it's hard, so I lean into it even more. Even me, even the person that's done it for a long time, there are people that I know that have done it for 25 years, and they'll still lean into their program, because they understand that, you're not gonna stay well because of the work you did yesterday. The stuff you do today is going to dictate that. And little things as well, like, so just finally, when I used to work, it was fight or flight. It was get up, rush to the office, no breakfast, coffee, ba 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 ba, end of the day, drink. Like, that roughly was my life for thousands of days. Now I get up a little bit earlier, I swim if I can, I go to gym if I can. These are all if I can. I don't always do it. Sometimes I'm like, nope, not today. But I meditate, I do gratitude lists, I do all these things I used to kind of mock and be like, those joggers in the morning. But now I understand, if I do these things, it's like magic. Like, you just feel better.
Yeah.
I've been up since 6:30 this morning. I've meditated, I've done little nice things, I've had a nice breakfast, and it helps.
Absolutely.
It really helps. So yeah, be kind to yourself, start your day off like that. Take time to read as well. Like, I stopped reading for years. I'd always read a bit and then get bored of that book or not finish stuff. But recovery and sobriety has given me just a real appreciation for stuff. I love reading books, not just self-help ones, because it's so easy to buy. Like, I bought all of them, haven't read one of them, but it's easy to have them all on your shelf, right? But reading other stuff that I like, and it's just really kind of opened up my eyes to just a wider world, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time
pleasure.
today. It's
My
been
pleasure.
really great getting to know more.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.